beauty is this beautiful battleground. I didn't come from the industry, but it is vicious. It's exciting. You are winning on performance. Like biology will take on chemistry. If you want to learn like how to be in synthetic biology and battle and market and sell and scale, like there is no industry like it. It's just amazing.
Hey, Karl, how's it going?
Things are going great, Erum. What about you?
I was trying to look for you yesterday. Where were you?
I had to go to the movies.
Oh, really? What did you see?
So I went to go see the new Spider-Man, which I thought was really pretty damn good. And there was some good biotech in it.
Oh, tell us more. Because this is the Grow Everything podcast where we talk about how biology is transforming every industry. And here we are in the movie industry. Tell us.
I mean, everybody knows the Peter Parker becomes Spider-Man story. He gets bitten by a radioactive spider. And then later on, it becomes a genetically engineered spider. And in this new Spider-Man with Tom Holland, in this particular episode, Brand New Day, the spider DNA starts to take over. He has this computer that's telling him what's wrong with him, and the hormone levels are changing into arachnid levels. And so he has to develop a device that silences mRNA so that he remains more of a balanced person and less a spider. And like the description of it was pretty good. He was inspired by Bruce Banner, who is the Hulk, and the Hulk makes an appearance in this movie. I'm not spoiling anything for anybody.
Are you sure?
Hopefully.
I was like gonna say, I'm like, wait, maybe that's just the bio plot.
Yeah, the bio plot is a subplot. I think part of the Peter Parker as Spider-Man story is always like he reaches a point where he has to grapple with his humanity versus his arachnidness. And that happens to happen in this particular movie or this episode in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it was kind of cool because like he has this apartment in the top of this building. I did not like the street that they made his New York street. Like I thought that was a little bit fake.
Was his apartment rent stabilized?
Yeah, we don't know. He has like the top floor of a building and he has like this 4 to 8 monitor setup. And then there's a couple of scenes where like they show the differences between his hormone levels, human versus spider. But then there's one screen that has like the classic gel electrophoresis proteins being moved across a space. And I was like, oh, that's a good nod to the science besides the whole, mRNA silencing. So I am a huge Spider-Man fan. He's my favorite superhero. And Spider-Man movies, especially most of them take place in New York City. I think they're all love letters to New York City. And this one in particular is like, just makes you happy to be a New Yorker.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I am getting into Spider-Man, reintroduced through my son. He doesn't call him Spider-Man, he calls him Spidey because there's the young version, the young cartoons. But I have read about it recently because you were watching pop culture. Love that they have bio in the mainstream. This is what we're also trying to do with this podcast, to have more people understand what's happening in the world of biotech and what the tools are and what you can do and what's possible. I have been reading The Gene by Siddhartha Mukherjee. It is about like 600 pages. I'm 300 pages in. They do talk about Spider-Man and X-Men and how that started helping people understand about the possibilities of genetic engineering or even just mutations in general, like just people getting mutations, whether they're bit by bugs or other means. Just like, I thought that was very interesting. Not as exciting as watching a movie on the big screen. 600-page book is a bit different, but I'm still getting through it. It's so fascinating, though, and it's all about the history of biology and genetics and how how it's come to be. And now we're getting closer to modern day, and it's very interesting, which I will talk more about probably later when I finish it. I have been taking notes, so we can do a quick recap.
You're my hero for reading that book because it's kind of sitting there on my shelf. It's been there for a long time. I've never cracked it open because it's just like intimidating. I'm more likely to pick up Don Quixote or Gravity's Rainbow, which are also 600 to 800 page novels, than I am that book. But at some point, I will also read it. So I can't wait to hear your notes on it.
Yep. Just doing what I got to do to make sure we have some good content on this podcast. And this particular episode is a continuation / transition of our bio dye series. And people are like, Erum, you've been learning a lot about colors. You and Karl have been talking about it all the time. You have all these amazing people on. Why are you so fascinated by food dye and colors? And I'm like, well, first of all, colors are cool. I mean, obviously, we're visual beings and we're always on. When our eyes are open, you're seeing colors. And obviously, we're visual eaters. We talked about how food is and colors really important to the eating experience. It's very sensory. But also, the main reason is because the whole biomanufacturing of dyes is a playbook for other biotech ingredients to be made. And there are a lot of tailwinds around it because of the regulatory reasons. This is like right now a poster child for starting to reformulate the products we have on our shelves away from toxic or ineffective ingredients that just are mundane and subpar, but we could ramp it up with biology. You know, our favorite one being in the biotech beauty space, K18 Hair has their peptide, which I love. I mean, you haven't commented on my hair, Karl, so I'm really offended right now.
Erum, did you just get your hair done this week or something?
Yes. Yesterday.
It looks fabulous.
Thank you.
It's got a lot of green for our listeners. You need to go and watch the video on YouTube.
All right. Again,
it's more green than it was before.
Yes, I'm going green. But yeah, it's just K18 has wonderful products that really help with creating virgin hair after you have to dye it, because I have to get my hair bleached in order to get this color. And it's just stylists that I worked with were like, oh my gosh, this is so great. We need to use all these products to make sure it pops and your hair is healthy. And it worked. So
I'm glad you said all that about the food dyes, and you mentioned K18. And I think one of our big lessons from K18, and there were many, and there continue to be many, K18 has like now introduced a set of scalp longevity products, which we're really interested in diving into. But formulating products with biology is fundamentally different than formulating them with chemistry. And so we kind of have to relearn how to make products. And I think that's really fascinating. And I think it's something that we're going to keep coming back to over and over again in this podcast, because we want to see more biotech ingredients, and formulating with them is challenging and different, but better. Performance is going to be different. So we're talking about dyes, biodyes. It could be in many cases like a biodye could end up being a preservative. So you end up replacing a bunch of other ingredients. So I love that we've done this, and I'm looking forward to bringing more people who are formulating with biology into the podcast, because I think there's a lot to be said there.
Continuing to do these biodye series, and we decided to also play around a little bit with food dye and experimenting in that realm. So we recently did this taste test video where we were tasting different types of chips, those with dyes and those without, particularly the Doritos or the Cheetos brand called Simply Naked. And those are the chips that have no dyes, and we compared it to the ones that do. You want to talk a little bit more about this, Karl?
Yeah, so you need to go and watch us doing it. It's a lot of fun. We were blindfolded. Lizette, our assistant producer, was in there feeding us the chips. She was the one who knew what she was giving us, whether it was the chips or the Cheetos. It was a fun experience. I'm a Doritos expert and huge fan. I don't eat them very often. You remember you went to a party and they had Doritos out recently.
Yeah, because in my friend groups, like we all try to eat healthy, but if there's a party, we'll not slip, but like we'll eat whatever. And they bought like this huge bag of Doritos, and it was the first thing to go. Everyone ate it.
People love Doritos. So you need to go and watch the video. But what's been great about this is we've been starting to get a lot of comments from our listeners and I guess our fans.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had posted this, and of course we'll have a link in the show notes. But one of our collaborators who we had on recently, Arati Asundi of the Smart Tea podcast, said that it's fascinating that removing dye actually seems to change the taste. The NKD hot Cheetos would definitely lull me into a false sense of security. It will be interesting to see how Doritos finds an alternative dye to use. And I think it's really interesting. So you'll have to see the video, but if you remove the dye from something that's very hot, that traditionally was bright red, and you see something bright red, you're like, I might proceed with caution. But if that color is removed, and you eat something and it's spicy, you'd feel like you were bamboozled. I don't know. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah, you made the point after we had tasted the Cheetos that some people might see them at a party and think they're white Cheetos and eat them, and then all of a sudden it's too spicy for them. I, as someone who loves really spicy food, would find that hard to believe because they're not that spicy. But I could see people being fooled.
Yeah, that is true. And then we also had a couple more comments. Wanted to give a shout out to Jessie Adler. She said about the video, the difference is really quite dramatic with the flaming hot Cheetos. Agree that color is key in signaling spiciness and flavor. Loving the Biodye series. Thank you so much, Jessie, for saying that. And finally, quick shout out to Ashley Marin, who just said, I love you guys.
We love you too, Ashley.
We love you too. Amazing.
Yeah, so all of that, I mean, listeners, go and watch and comment and let us know what you think of our little Doritos and Cheetos experiment. It was a lot of fun to do that, and we need to do that more often. Like, there's more of these biotech products are out there. We need more people to be exposed to them. The Cheetos and the Doritos are not a biotech product. I do think they use genetically engineered corn, and they make that very clear on their labels. But I had a lot of fun with that, and I'm looking forward to doing it again. Now, Erum, have you heard about this new imaginary color?
No, I mean, you share that with me. And I'm so curious, first of all, how it came to your purview. And wow, I'm excited to learn more about this.
Okay, so there's a new color. It's called Olo, which is such a funny name.
Love it.
And apparently you can only see it using specialized tools that activate certain cells on the retina. You can't see this with a naked eye because it's too close to green. But this was just recently discovered last year by scientists at UC Berkeley. And apparently people are able to see it if the experimental conditions are the same. It looks like a blue-green color that is super, super saturated. I think it's really beautiful. We'll put a link in the show notes. But I mean, having a new color discovered while we talk about the Biodye color series. And I think that green, I don't know, Erum, is that the color you were aiming for with your hair?
Yeah, I wanted some Olo hair. Yeah, I mean, it just gets so fascinating because you're like, wait, imaginary color? They discovered something imaginary? It's like, and this is, I mean, I love science. This is why, because it's not over, right? Science.
It's not, we're not even close to being over.
Not even close to being,
well, but, and like the other
so
thing
much
that it reminded me of is like animals, dogs, cats, birds, mammals have different ways of seeing. They have different concentrations of cells in their retinas. Are they able to see this Olo color? There used to be an exhibit at the boathouse in the Prospect Park, and you could put your head into like a big bird, and it was set up so that you could see the field of vision that a bird would have. You couldn't see the colors, but a bird's field of vision is very different from ours because their eyes typically are on the sides of their head. And a lot of animals have eyes on the side of their head. So what animal is able to see this Olo color?
Yeah, I mean, I always think about the limitations that we have as humans with vision and taste, and all of our senses, very limited. We can only see a very thin slice of the visible spectrum. So what else is going on outside of it that we can't see? And we are starting to build instrumentation to be able to see it, just like being able to discover this imaginary color. But what other instruments do we need to see to collect the type of information? Because it paints a broader picture of reality. You know, our reality we can only experience in such a limited way. But there's more to be seen and done, and we're working towards it. And biotechnology is one of those tools to help us uncover what's new and amazing and what we could do with it.
Yeah, and to bring it back to Spider-Man.
Okay.
I'm just thinking about like biologically enhanced human or digitally enhanced humans. How do you enhance our field of vision so that we can see more of those colors? I mean, that is something that happens in comic books and science fiction. So I know it's just a matter of time before we're probably able to do those kinds of things.
Oh, yeah. I mean, augmented reality is kind of in that realm, night vision, I don't know, X-ray vision. I mean, there's a lot, but how do we do it in a way that's safe? I don't know how X-ray vision, if you could put that into glasses, but anyway, this is what we do. We go down these rabbit holes, but we'll bring it back. We're professional. We're bringing it
All right,
back.
so let's bring it back to today's guest. I'm super excited, and we've been wanting to get Joshua Britton of Debut on the podcast for a really long time. And so we're very excited that we were finally able to schedule him. By way of background, Joshua started Debut on this thesis that AI and biotech could discover and manufacture high performance ingredients that had never been created before and that could be used to redefine beauty innovation. You saw Joshua speak at SymBioBeta. I missed that talk, but he's been on our list for a really long time. Joshua has a postdoc from MIT, got his PhD at UC Irvine, and studied at the University of Nottingham. He has been named Vogue Business 100 Innovators, debuts one of Time's 100 most influential companies, and he received the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award for the Pacific Southwest in 2024. With that, let's let Joshua take it away.
Joshua Britton of Debut, welcome to the Grow Everything podcast. We're so excited to have you, finally.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm sorry about the time, but yeah, I'm really excited to be here today.
Yes, we've been looking at what's been going on with Debut. I heard you speak at SymBioBeta maybe a couple years ago. You're on stage with L'Oreal, another partner, and it was so great to hear the beginnings and the journey, and now we're here to share it with our audience. So we would love to first start about your background a little bit. So you're trained in pure organic chemistry across many institutions, Nottingham, UC Irvine, MIT. We would love to learn a little bit more about what made you realize that the future of molecular creation, which is what you do, belongs to AI and biotech rather than traditional chemistry.
That's a really good question. And yeah, thanks for having me. So I think for me, it really became apparent when I started going into more complex natural product creation and joining the labs that did this. And in those labs, people would spend 5, 10, 15 years trying to create these like very complex molecules found in nature. And it was actually at UC Irvine and yet then followed by MIT where I started spending a lot more time with the biologists in these institutions. And the biologists we're creating these exact same molecules in 5 days, right? Via biology. They were just letting nature run its course. And yet, on the opposite side of the campus, the chemistry schools, you have people dedicating their whole PhDs to a few steps in which enzymes could just do. So that became the first eye-opening moment that something I would spend years on could be done by just growing up a culture of E. coli, right? And so I think that was the first thing. I think the second thing then was just chemistry had always been such a prevalent part of my life through the training, through, when I started in 2009, going through the academic institutions. Biology really didn't have that much knowledge behind it. It was still kind of coming out of its shell, if you will. By the time I kind of hit full flight through PhDs and postdocs, biology was taking over the world, right? People understood biology. They could harness it, they could use it, they could really dream with it. And so it was that convergence right at that point where I decided, why are we spending all this money, time, energy, and talent going after molecules that biology can do super well, easily, better than chemists? And at the end of the day, nature is just smarter than synthetic chemists, right? So we got to harness it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just a question, when you were at UC Irvine, did you deal at all with Douglas Tobias?
He was in the same school, but I was under Professor Greg Weiss, who was at UCI, is now at NYU. But Greg's lab was at the exact intersection of chemistry and biology. And so half of it was chemistry, half of it was biology. And I still remember that, like the first days of going to his lab and having to use a micropipette for the first time. And he was like, how has this not been a thing that you've been able to do before in your career? And it really was that like crossover. But yeah, Tobias, he's great.
Yeah, he was a roommate and good friend of mine in college. So you've argued that the true promise of biomanufacturing requires total vertical integration. Why is this traditional biotech model of licensing a single molecule to external brands flawed?
It's probably the biggest question we get asked, right? If you do go back like 5, 7 years ago, there was kind of two camps that broke out. There was the horizontally integrated companies, of which there was tons, right? And there was the vertical ones. And when we first started coming through the system, through the venture capital system, people were like, it looks like horizontal is going to win. But for us, we were privileged enough to kind of grow up behind Ginkgo, Amyris, Zymergen, right? And we could see the mistakes they made and then the difficulties of really trying to take the promise of biology and deliver it to the masses. And so for us, there was a few things that we didn't like. The first is that like Biology is easy to engineer now, right? You have kids doing it. You have kids engineering biology. There are thousands of people going through the university system. So the problem is no longer engineering biology. Everyone can engineer biology. It's easy. The harder things that we always saw was no matter if you could scale the technology, which I don't think is a problem anymore, you could make the ingredient. It always became on how to ship the ingredient, formulate the ingredient, how to sell biotech to the consumer via the brand. So it just opened up different set of problems. And for us, we had to think about those problems very early on, which was it doesn't matter if you can make an ingredient. It doesn't matter if you can scale an ingredient with biology. If the brand isn't ready to receive it or can use it or can speak to it to their consumer, that's the real roadblock, because otherwise no one's going to purchase it and therefore the company's not going to get revenue, and it's just kind of that vicious cycle. So we very early on at Debut kind of made that decision that we don't believe horizontal integration works. We kind of looked more towards the incumbents that are really successful, right? So if you look at DSM, Cargill, ADM, like Slavia, like these companies, they are synthetic biology companies. They just don't scream and shout about it from the roofs, right? But they are vertically integrated. They will go all the way from discovery to fermentation optimization to production to formulation to selling the ingredient to helping it with their clients. Like it really was the full gamut. And so for us, it was about leaning more towards that model away from horizontal. I don't think it's necessarily that if you have an amazing asset like Botox, right? You can definitely create an incredible business model around Botox. But the problem that we felt with synthetic biology was everyone goes after ingredients that are known, that are already made with petroleum, that are already made through other causes. And so there's not really a high demand for why are you making it with synthetic biology? And that's why we leaned into the AI discovery aspect. That's why we always thought it was very important to own our own ingredients. Because for us, if we have the highest performing ingredient, people want to work with us. Brands want to include it in their products. They want to stand out. They want the customers to be happy. And it just so happened that the ingredients that we were discovering were best made via synthetic biology. So like a very different way of looking at kind of the landscape, if you will, across synthetic biology. But I think it was really important for us in the early days.
Wow. Yeah. I love that positioning. I mean, we like to talk about the go to market. A lot of companies that we meet, they just focus so much on the technology. There was one company, they were like, yeah, we put 95% of all of our money into the technology. Now we only have like a little bit money for marketing. Can you help us for $4? And you're like,
Yeah.
that's going to be very challenging. The better bet would have been to save out like a larger chunk, prove out your market, get that all established, then go back and work on your technology. So
You actually get it right. I mean, one of the things we talk about at a board level is one of the most important things in this scientific transition from chemistry to biology is the scientific communication of the things you are creating, right? And scientific communication of fermentation and AI and is really difficult. And ultimately, if the brands who you're selling to cannot get that message in a value added way and convey it to their customers, it doesn't matter what you're making. It doesn't matter if it's through fermentation. It doesn't matter if we're having this symbio moment, because ultimately no one will purchase it and no one will make money, right? So yeah, I totally agree with you. Like the go to market is so vital.
yeah, it always makes me think about how many amazing innovations are on the shelf because no one was able to talk about it. It's like, but I would love to talk a little bit more about these novel molecules you guys are discovering. Can you help our listeners visualize what Debut's actually creating on the consumer side? Tell us a little bit more about these ingredients and this physical experience that comes from these ingredients.
Really, about 4 years ago, we had a come to Jesus moment whereby we could see that the symbio industry was going to start going downhill because it was just too broad. People were making stuff that no one cared about, right? And so we doubled down into beauty so hard. So like 99% of everything we do now is beauty. And beauty is such a great first market entrance to synthetic biology because the volumes are slightly lower. People care about performance. Everyone's kind of understanding beauty biotech. And so it's a really good learning ground for both the scientific communication aspect, but also getting that high margin, reoccurring revenue that's plagued this industry for so long, right? So we doubled down into beauty. And then the biggest lesson that we kind of took from that is that we always have to start with the consumer claim in mind. So For us, when we create synthetic biology pipelines, it's never let's go to literature, let's find out what's good from academia, and let's put it into yeast and make it, right? It really starts with a lot of the consumer understanding. So working with L'Oreal, working with Image, working with quite literally tens, if not near hundreds of brands now, we understand what does the consumer want, what is not available, or what is not working or could be better. Like these are key questions, and so we have really great people from the beauty industry on our team. And we understand that the 14 hallmarks of aging, or reduction in redness, or anti dandruff, or whatever it is, those are the targets then. And then we'll work with our AI ingredient discovery platform to screen 100 billion potential molecules computationally. And then once we find the molecules, we then choose how to make it. And that could be via enzymatic catalysis. It could be via fermentation. It could be via E. coli, yeast, or mammalian. Like it's for us, synthetic biology is just a really great manufacturing tool to create ingredients that are difficult to make at low cost and high volume. And so that's really a little bit about our process from like working with the brand, like Image for the skin tightening ingredient. In this post Ozempic era, it was post Ozempic, rapid weight loss. We saw there was a lot of like call for brands trying to address like the under neck area, the face area, the body area, but there was no ingredient to do this. And it goes back to what we said earlier about like the evolution of chemistry to biology, which is like, well, now actually there is so much great research on biology of skin. And they're like, if I remember 15 years ago when I was coming through the system, if you were the best chemist in the world, you always wanted to work in pharma, right? If you're the best chemist in the world, you never went, I want to work at a beauty company. And that's kind of changing now because like the hallmarks of aging are coming through. There's longevity science and it's kind of exciting. And like, there's so much good knowledge coming out about beauty right now that you do then get the ability to create these kind of cool solutions. And so that's a bit about our workflows. And it really always starts with what is the consumer demanding and how do we take that through? Because if we follow that workflow, then we know that by the time we get to the other end, if it's clinically backed and it works and we can go through that area, there's already customers. We don't have to play the game that most synthetic biology companies play, which is like, let's go and find customers. The customers influence the pipeline, more like pharma.
Yeah, I mean, we have been lucky to have played our part and continue to play a part in biotech beauty. And I've always found it to be like such a fascinating area because, as you say, Joshua, it moves super fast. There's consumer demand and there's trends. So you might launch something today that works really well, has high performance, but the trend might change. And then depending on what that product is, you can reformulate it so that it kind of follows a trend. So I think that there's like infinite opportunity. And especially as we talk about longevity, you talked about this post Ozempic world where people want skin tightening. All those things are just, I think of beauty as being mano a mano in the streets fighting for the next great ingredient, you know?
You've got that absolutely right. People have the misconception that some synthetic biology companies go into beauty because it's lower volume and easier. It's not really the case. It's just people end up in beauty because there is demand for the innovation of which synthetic biology can demand, right? And again, you kind of see these two camps of people going, no, the hardest thing is the biology and the scaling. And we're like, that's not hard. What's hard is getting consumer demand because once you have that, you'll work out how to scale it pretty quickly, right? It's that, but yeah, beauty is this beautiful battleground. I didn't come from the industry, but it is vicious. It's exciting. You are winning on performance. Like biology will take on chemistry. If you want to learn like how to be in synthetic biology and battle and market and sell and scale, like there is no industry like it. It's just amazing.
One of the things that I think you've touched on this, but what happens is you move complex biological processes out of an academic lab, for example, MIT, and then you turn it into a commercial enterprise. Were there any like big failures or technical walls that you hit that ultimately forged a breakthrough that you could share with our audience?
Yeah, I think the biggest failures that we had were like Series A, right? And that's when you meant to fail. You meant to push and fail. And the failures that we had just told us that the horizontal business models were never going to work. And so we spent time and money, energy and talent going after ingredients that we found in academic literature, which were meant to have these amazing properties. Like, and this is happening again. You see these like new wave of companies coming through, just making the same stuff, like making the same mistakes again. But so we spend like a year and a half. We get the titers up, we isolate it, we purify it, we do like the preclinical, and we're excited. and then we put it in a cosmetic formula and it degrades like that. Or you can't formulate it and you get these like bitty crystals. And so, God, it's so difficult then, because what you've done, you've invested into a process. People are like, oh, we can make it at this cost. That's great. But again, it goes towards like the supply chain, the formulation, the consumer understanding. Can it make a beautiful product that people repeat and come back for, right? And so that was like the biggest wall for us, spending a lot of time going after multiple assets that were never going to work. And these are assets that people are still working on now. And so it told us a few things. It told us first, consumer end in mind. Very early on in the process, are we doing formulation testing? We're doing stability testing. We're doing more of like the use of the ingredient in the end product, because ultimately, if that doesn't work, it doesn't matter how you make it. No one cares. And so yeah, that was one of the biggest things for us. Once we hit that wall, we brought in formulation chemists. And then once you could formulate it, we were happy. And then the question became, okay, well, if people are just copying the same molecules from literature, every company on earth can do that. So we need to discover our own one. So we brought in like the discovery teams, the preclinical teams, the clinical teams. And that became like our vertical process from discovery to, can we formulate it with it? Okay, now we've got the two big check marks and we know it's good. How do we make it? How do we scale it? How do we sell it? And so naturally, I think you see how just hitting these walls kind of required more of a vertical nature.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, because you have to have that the DBTL from lab to scale. And I'm really interested in the AI that you guys are using, looking at billions of molecules, look for novel ingredients in like minutes or seconds. Then you still have the world of physical biology, and that takes months to test and scale. So how do you manage the massive friction between digital speed and physical reality? And then also, like, how vertically integrated is the AI now, or how can it be fully integrated?
Yeah, it's God, what a fascinating topic of conversation right now, right? You kind of see everyone breaking out with it. So for us, we used AI because when we went to the discovery side, we knew that there were roughly 100 billion small molecules that we needed to test. And even with like high speed robotics, that would be tens of years to do it. So I came up more through like the chemistry side, the pharma side, and in that you use quantitative structure activity relationships, or QSARs, to look at a chemical structure to an effect, right? And so for us, that's where we decided we were going to invest. We were going to create the data sets first, the high fidelity data sets to map structure to function, and then we'd use machine learning first and then graduate into AI to relate structure to function. And so if someone came to us and they said, we really want this function, we want this molecule to do inflammation and skin tightening, we could then go back in and kind of say, these are the molecules, right? So for us, it was never about using AI just to like speed up work, like just because it was AI. We did this about 3.5 years ago, and it was purely the need on for debut to be successful. We always have to have the highest performing ingredient in market. And we can only do that if we can discover new ingredients. And so that's how we do it. Now, the interesting thing you said about the friction between like computation and testing is, again, I always like, there's two camps, right? Emerged again, which is like people are saying that the labs of the futures are robotic instruments and high throughput thing. And like, in our opinion, that's just a blip. We're getting to a point now where our computational models require less and less lab testing because they're coming better and better, right? And so when we fast forward 10 years into the future into this, there's not so much wet lab testing anymore. There will always be wet lab testing for the candidates which come from it. But the companies who are building like infrastructure to test millions and millions, well, they'll create the data sets to do the computational workflows, but ultimately they will not be needed in the future. And so that's how we think about it. Right now, yes, we have to test thousands of candidates, but every time we do this with new customers, it goes from 10,000 to 1,000 to 500 to 50. Like, it's coming down that curve. And so I think the way it looks in the future is when someone comes with a claim, we're able to create that molecule computationally, maybe get to 10, 15 candidates, and then do testing on those. And that's not so experimentally complex at that point. Then it's quite manageable. But that's the bet we're making.
That's amazing. A couple of times, Joshua, you've talked about like friction friction between academia and commercialization, friction between this idea of how you use AI. And then there's friction when it comes to funding and marketplace. And you guys have taken an investment from Bold, which is L'Oreal's venture fund. How do you navigate the tension that comes from being a very fast moving AI based synthetic biology company and the rigid demands of one of the world's largest cosmetic companies?
It's a great question, and it's quite frankly the investment that Bold made into us and working with L'Oreal kind of really helped shape the company we are today. Like they really taught us how to work with big companies, and that's kind of invaluable as a startup. But I would say we kind of look at it from two lenses. At Debut, we have our own internal pipeline, and our own internal pipeline is controlled by us. It is fast, it is quick, it is like governed by all of our team. And so we look to release two new ingredients a year via that pipeline into the beauty market. However, the other side of it then is working with large corporates, including L'Oreal. We actually do a lot of work with them. And yes, these aren't like year-long projects. These are 3-year projects, right? Their innovation cycles are longer. However, the impact that we get to have with L'Oreal by going down this way is just like tremendous, right? They make hundreds of millions of products. And so it's just two sides of the company. It's one side is a slower, more integrated pipeline with large companies, but the impact is very quick at the end and big and huge and great. And then the other side is our own internal pipeline where we get to move quick and go after new claims and be more of that startup energy. And both have a role to play in this. Both kind of learn from each other, both feed from each other. But you're kind of right. If you do just go with 100% big company, the timelines will bankrupt the company, right? You just can't do that. So, but also, you can't just hedge it all on your internal pipeline as a young company. As you get older and you understand more and you become an expert in the industry, I think that's fine. But the amount of learning that we've had to do over the last few years with these large companies has just kind of shaped us to be really good at like discovering assets and ingredients and then commercializing them into beauty. And without the help of those companies, we probably wouldn't have been able to do it as effectively.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible because that's a big tension that we hear from a lot of early stage companies trying to sell to these large companies and navigating the timelines and the expectations is very challenging. And clearly, you still see it. It's not easy. It's still always going to be challenging, but you're navigating it successfully. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, and again, like people, why is beauty great? Well, the innovation timelines are probably the shortest across the big players that they will be compared to food, nutrition, and pharma, right? So if you want to work with the large companies, it is good, but you have to be willing to know that the innovation cycles are 3 to 5 years. And so, what are you going to do for those 3 to 5 years to make money? And I think 5 years ago, it was let's take these big upfront payments from companies and let's do technical workflows, right? But how many of those have actually come to fruition? Probably a handful, right? And it's the problem that plagued the entire symbio industry, which was people would get all this huge revenue from these technology payments, and then 2 years later, it was down to zero. And so it's kind of having the guts and having the foresight to say the technology payments are great, they support us, but that's not a business model. The business model has to be repeat reoccurring revenue that Wall Street can understand, where the company can be valued and its own destiny is in its own hands. And again, I think that's where the symbio industry heads and is heading. It's hard, right? It's hard to create your own pipeline.
Yeah, yes. And it sounds like right now you're laser focused on the biotech beauty, the beauty industry. We saw LinkedIn rumblings of like working with some food companies or just talking to them. You mentioned that your AI platform scans small molecules, which could possibly benefit pharma, and that your AI is internal. So, a couple of questions here. Have you thought about externalizing this AI for other people to use? And then, what other industries, not that you're doing that today, but that you've explored or might have some side projects happening, side hustles?
Yeah, so we no, it's a great question. So yeah, you're exactly right. The platform that we've invested in effectively discovers new molecules and brings those molecules to an industry, right? And so yes, we started off in beauty, but the ones we have projects ongoing for can include pharma, more pharma-like molecules. So you can imagine there's like pharma aspects of beauty, right? Like that's a
For
nice like
sure.
That's a nice like jump into that, if you will.
Yes.
And then beauty from within, i.e., nutrition, is the same thing. It's small molecules, peptides that go there. And for us, then, one of the most interesting ones right now is color, right? And the way we look at color is it's really good for our beauty business in terms of bioactive color and like high performance color. But of course, the volumes in the beauty color industry are very low. It's if you look at the products. So we do work with companies. The one we're public about is Oterra for a red 40 replacement. And so you can imagine that there's multiple colors in the universe and we want them for beauty, but because the volumes aren't there, we work with players who want to sell those colors to other industries in nutrition, food and beverage and pharma. So I think the way we approach it is the beauty is a really great market for us, right? We're nowhere near the level of saturation we had. Like we are very busy right now. And we have to remain very focused. The margin profiles are good. We have a great reputation there. We are able to make consumer products and formulations. But I think in the future, then that platform will expand into nutrition, beauty from within, and maybe pharma on the OTC side of beauty, but I think we're trying to stay in our lane. There's great synthetic biology tools for pharma, and that's a really saturated industry. But for the consumer side of it, no. And so how do we make our mark on the consumer angles is what we try and do.
I mean, there's just so much opportunity, and you have regulatory changing all the time, which also creates a different kind of opportunities. So, for example, in the EU, they've got this deforestation regulation that's making it more challenging for people to use traditional ingredients. So, how does Debut position its biomanufactured molecules as an immediate economic lifeline for brands that are trying to comply with those laws?
Yeah, and this is like a thing that's happening right now. It's impacting beauty brands in 2028. And some of the examples we always give is retinol concentrations are having to be lowered in the EU, which they're having to lower the concentrations, which leads it away from efficacious nature. The same as skin brightening ingredients like kojic acid, they're having to lower the concentration there. And so, yeah, now people go, uh-oh, like a lot of my portfolio contains these molecules, so I have 2.5 years to reformulate. How do I get the same efficacious nature when I can't use the molecules at the dose required? And so that allows us a really good opportunity. And there's our pipeline is trending towards that, which is there's molecules which will be off market in 28. And so it's allowing us to come through with biotech enabled molecules. And biotech for us isn't just the making of the molecule, it's the understanding of biology and how to use biological tools to create better molecules. And once we find those molecules, then we biomanufacture the molecules, right? So I think it's that way, which is there's a lot of opportunity coming down where chemical ingredients can't do it. And so they have to go and discover some. And so how do you discover them? We work with us and we help you discover then molecules for specific needs and bring them to market pretty quickly. But yeah, it's kind of all trending in this direction of biotech. It's like safety standards, purity standards. It's every beauty brand in the world right now talks about longevity and the hallmarks of aging and like root causes of aging and like chemistry just can't do that easy. And so it's just really good timing for synthetic biology and biotechnology in general and beauty to come together for regulatory pressures from the EU, regulatory pressures from like MAHA, like it's a good time to be here. Exactly. And yeah, that's why there's just such opportunity for your listeners who are like, I really want to do something in biotechnology. Beauty is a huge market. There are so many areas that we don't have time to go into, and it needs more innovation.
Yes. You touched on, needing to understand biology to make different molecules, but it's making biology for biology because we are made of biology. So it only makes sense. This is also like my thinking when it comes to space innovation. It's like, okay, you want to have a life on Mars. How are you using biology to support biology? It's like, I don't know, I feel like it's obvious, but we're at a point where, yes, it is obvious. Now, how do we work to get the market to understand, not to scale it up like you're saying, all the science, the technology, it's there. Yeah, we could still learn more there, but it is the industries, the markets, economy. How are they going to learn?
That's exactly right. The problem in biotechnology is no longer scaling a molecule or make a molecule with biology. That is done. It is, what are we making and how does it fit into the economy to drive growth? How does it drive return? Like, these questions are somewhat harder to answer than how do I make that molecule, right? These are the harder questions which require multiple brains across multiple industries coming together. It's not just biologists or chemists saying, I can make it this way. Like, it's a very integrated task, which is seemingly harder.
Yeah. And maybe it's multiple molecules to really solve a problem. And what does that look like?
It is. And synergistic relationships, like beauty always goes down this personalization path of like, we haven't personalized it. It's nothing in beauty is personalized right now because we are just starting to understand the differences between people's skin who live on this side of the world and this side of the world, right? And God, it's just like there's so much great stuff going to be done in the next 10 years by understanding the biology of skin and then creating solutions for someone who's in China versus the US versus the EU. And like, that's kind of like, that's where biology is going to shine.
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to say this because Karl and I were talking about earlier. We were talking about sunscreen and how there's SPF 30 and SPF 50, but the difference is very like minimal. And the point is like to reapply it. And what so reapplying an SPF 30 is better than SPF 50 that you don't reapply regularly. And then like, well, what is the efficacy? I mean, how much sun do we actually need? Yes, we need it for vitamin D, but I kind of went down this rabbit hole, and it's people with different skin color require different amounts of sun. So lighter skin requires less, darker skin requires more. So maybe there's different types of sunscreens for different types of skin color. So it's like, which I know is sometimes controversial, but like it's the truth, it's the biology.
People's skin is different. People's
Yeah.
biology
Yeah.
different. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's
Yeah. Yes. So the next question, I think I know the answer to it, but I'm just going to still ask it because I want to hear you answer it again because it's a very important answer. And if you don't answer it the way I think, I will tell you the answer that I think you're going to answer.
okay. Now I'm interested. Now I'm interested.
Okay. Okay. So you advise other venture funds. Besides debut, you've learned a lot, which is really great that you're giving back, and you advise on near frontier technologies. So what's the single biggest red flag that tells you a brilliant scientific discovery will fail to scale in the real market?
I would say we've learned that it's cost and performance that wins. And so I analyze so much technology that comes through the venture markets, and it's, we want to make this molecule because we found that it does this. And the first question I always ask is, how, is it better than what every other consumer company is using right now? And if the answer is no, it will not work. And if they go, but it's more sustainable, I will tell you it will not work. Like what we always say at our company, because a lot of our company joined Debut because of the sustainability aspects of biotechnology, and that's great, but that's our responsibility. It's our responsibility as a company to take sustainability into our processes. It is not the responsibility of the customer to do it, right? And so, yeah, that's the first thing. And it's always played out that exact way across all these venture funds where they go, here's a molecule or a technology, but it's going to be roughly the same. And we're going to have to invest $100 million to bring it to market. Absolutely not. Red flag.
Yeah, yeah, and it's going to
So,
cost
Yeah.
10 times more. Yeah.
yeah. And even if it costs the same and it's roughly the same, why am I going to go back through the whole formulation process and change it out? So like, that is the biggest lesson that we learned very early on, and we try and help others with, which is like, tell me why the brand manager of that brand, that $1 billion brand, cares. Because if it gives the consumer the same thing and now I have to deploy all my resources, time and energy for it, who cares? It's not going to work.
Yeah, and I think you kind of talked around this, but I think what something that a lot of people don't realize is like formulating with biology is different. Like we have 100 and something years of experience formulating with chemistry. We don't have that much time formulating with biology, which is a very different beast. And so there's not enough people out there doing it. And as you mentioned, Joshua, you guys have these super convergence of different disciplines coming together to formulate. And I think this idea of just, oh, we've got this great molecule that has great performance doesn't take into account the fact that you still have to make it a formula that's going to work.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's like the biggest crux, and people still don't take it into consideration, right? Which is, you can make the best thing on the market, it can be the golden bullet, but if it can't go into a beautiful product that someone within 2 seconds puts on their skin and goes, I love the way this feels, that immediate kind of gratification they get, if that doesn't happen, they don't care what's in the formula. And it's not just the end consumer, it's the brand in which you're pitching to. And so that is why our formulation team are so important to us because unless these ingredients can go into a range of textures and formats across SPF or body, hair, sun, like scalp, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's just going to be a molecule that stays on the shelf with good potential. And so if I were to rewound a bit in terms of Davy's life, I think we should have brought formulation in probably prior to the Series A, but now it's a whole building. It's so important.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a quick follow up. So you answered performance wins. That was the answer.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the communications go to market.
No. That's exactly, look, that is, if not equally important, because like I will tell you, we pitch 30, 40 brands a week. And I'll tell you things they do not understand. And rightfully so. It's not their area. No one cares how the ingredient is made. So just think about that. All the effort that we put into biomanufacturing, no one cares. And that's fine. They care about, is it better for my consumer on a performance or a safety aspect? And does it give me a marketing hook that when I'm selling this to the consumer, they will pick my product? That is it. And so if you can't articulate what the ingredient does, you don't have benchmark comparisons to current ingredients, or you cannot, have a good story around the ingredient, it will not go into marketing. And we spend so much time and so much energy on every single word, and it's still like an evolving thing. And I mean, I think it's really rare in this industry to find people who can speak science that clearly. That it doesn't matter who you are in the US, where you are, your education, your background, or what you care about, that they will understand it like that. Man, that is such a difficult problem to try and solve. Much harder than any of the biology.
Yeah. And I'll do a plug for us at Messaging Lab. I always say
Okay.
that if that was an easy thing, we wouldn't have a business. But looking ahead 10 years, you've talked a little bit about this, Joshua. What role will vertically integrated biological factories play in everyday life? And what needs to happen to make biomanufactured consumer goods the default rather than a luxury or still like a niche?
Yeah, I'll take the second question first because it's something we think about a lot. So with all new technology, it always starts off as a niche, right? And it's a really big barrier to entry to kind of drive it into mainstream. So there's two things that win there. First, it's cost, right? So like as we go down to mass brands, so just think about like when you go to your drugstores, you see all those products and you ask, why is there no biotechnology in there? It's because the cost game there is pretty severe, right? And it's not like you can't produce the ingredient at that cost. It just becomes then like working capital considerations. It becomes like a lot of financial considerations there. So I think first is just working capital cost, those kind of boring financial aspects of how you go into mass market. But then scientific communication becomes a role. Like the people who are buying prestige luxury skincare for aging that's 15 times better than this or that, they know what they're buying and they're educated. They are hunting for that. But if I'm going to put this into, I don't know, like Nivea or CeraVe and put it into Costco, is that really our audience? Is that really the audience? And it may be in the future, and I think it will, but it leads to my second point about what's needed, performance. Like the amount of biotech that's done to create the same exact molecules that we can find in cultivational chemistry right now is enormous. And we think it's just the wrong approach. It's biology is so beautiful and inherent and complex, and it can do so many amazing things. That's what we should be targeting. We shouldn't be targeting doing the same things that chemistry or cultivation can. So it's performance and it's cost. In terms of like 10 years, I think the reason why vertically integrated matters so much is because of the harder problems we think, which is supply chain, formulation, consistency, speed to market. You can't expect these companies who have no knowledge of biomanufacturing to A, scale your process, B, use these molecules, because like you said, formulation chemists are not trained typically on brand new things. Like we have to develop that. We have to develop the kind of the knowledge around how to formulate it. And so that's where the vertical integration comes into it. It's not necessarily that we want to control everything or there's a huge financial upside. There's financial upside, but it's complex to control a vertically integrated company. But we think it's needed because otherwise things just stay at the pilot stage or stay at the production stage and you'll never find it in your home. So that's where I think is be vertically integrated throughout beauty, nutrition, pharma's already vertically integrated, right? So it's just the consumer side of it will become vertically integrated, and that will take a bit of time.
I think a lot of it has to do with too, like you're selling to these big companies, and in reality, a lot of these people might have been there for many years, and learning something new and taking it from an idea all the way to integrating into their supply chain and market requires so much thought that, and it's not their core competency. So to be able to show them the playbook of how to go to market, and all they have to do is say yes rather than think so hard about what this could look like, then they just sign. Okay, you just made it so easy for them.
And it's exactly why we have a consumer brand, right? So we have a consumer brand called Dende, and everyone thought that the reason why we launched Dende was because we were trying to copy Amherst's business model and it was going to be great. The real reason why we have Dende is because we needed to show and demonstrate and learn how to talk about these ingredients and products in market to multiple customers. Because when we go and pitch to these brands, the questions we always get were, how do I talk about inflammaging or skin tightening? How do I talk about biotechnology? Where in the pyramid of hierarchy of messaging does it land? What images do we use? How do I speak to biotechnology on TikTok versus Sephora, right? So these were like questions that unless we solved and we could understand and speak as experts, we were never going to get the sale. And like, just think about how crazy that is, that we have to be a biotechnology company on the ingredient discovery side, on the biomanufacturing side, on the commercial side. And then we also have amazing people on the marketing, brand building, product side that have to do all of that work just to demonstrate to the people at large companies, this is how you speak to it, this is visually, these are the formulation formats. And we can go so in depth now that on TikTok, this is how we speak to biotechnology versus on Amazon. And that's what's required to make successful sales. And how many biotechnology companies have that? Very few, right? But that's why we have the brand. Yes, it generated a lot of money, but it was more about how do we close that sales cycle with larger companies or mid-tier companies, and how do we remove their anxiety about using biology? And it was just our technique to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. What a great lesson for other companies, early stage biotech beauty companies, or even other industries that want to sell their ingredients to large industrial players. You have to kind of show them the end to end what that looks like. And if you can build it and show them, that's amazing. If you can get the resources to do that, that's amazing. But even if you can just think through step by step everything you mentioned, all of the types of messages and everything, that could help just for them to say yes or be on board because they understand how to solve all the problems.
It's exactly right. And everyone thinks that once they say yes to the ingredient, that's the sale. And I mean, we physically make products right now. So we understand that's not even the first step. It's then with the formulation chemist, then with quality, regulatory, it's with all the registrations, both at the facility, both, like, yeah, it just, unless you've done it, it's really hard to understand that just making the ingredient is the easiest part of this whole process.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all your experience. Now we're at the fun part of this
Oh
interview
no.
where we have a quick fire questions.
Okay.
Quick fire. Okay, so let's get a little loose and just answer very
Okay.
quickly. Okay. So if you could permanently delete one petroleum derivative from the global cosmetic supply chain tomorrow, what would it be?
Probably petrolatum. I think there's such a great opportunity for emollients and emulsifiers and to be replaced with biological ones, not just to replace it with the same one, but to replace them with ones which are high performing, may have clinical activity, and just kind of give the product another edge while doing the job of like an emulsifier surfactant. I think that's where we'll see next.
I love it. What's one traditional ingredient harvest method that belongs in the history books?
I would say everyone keeps forgetting the lessons of Taxol. Taxol was the one thing I was taught when I went through my master's and PhD, which is Taxol is an oncology drug that used to be harvested from the yew tree, and then it was like semi-harvested from the yew tree. Then they did plant cell culture, then they did chemistry, and then it ended up at fermentation, right? And so like that progression of technology from like cultivation to chemistry to biomanufacturing of a complex molecule will always happen. yet people start to go backwards down the chain to plant cell culture to harvesting.
Right.
And like I always like to remember that from the history books is there are so many examples like that, like paracetamol from the tree as well for headache. Another example, look to history because it will tell you eventually how technology kind of goes down.
Oh, wow. That's great. I love that lesson, the case study. So, if Debu's AI discovery platform had a human personality trait, what would it be?
I think relentlessly curious but allergic to intuition. And I think like the way I think the reason why I say that is it's always so easy to try and put human impact into these processes. But the reason why we don't do it with human impact is because we want to explore vast amounts of chemical space to explore new ingredients. And so, yeah, that's what I think would be.
I love that, allergic to intuition, because no AI. I mean, I think of AI as triggering our own intuition if we trust our own intuition, but there is no intuition in these large language models.
Yeah, it's a tool to find the best outcome and just kind of let the tool be the tool.
Okay, what's one beauty industry marketing buzzword that makes you roll your eyes as a scientist?
Now I've been in this long, it's clinically proven. You know, we do clinically proven, but the amount of differentiation you can see across clinically proven goes all the way from we tested it on 30 people in the office who said it was really nice and they loved it. So we had a 100% score, all the way through to like, people always ask me what's the best products to buy as a beauty consumer. And I will either say ours or L'Oreal's. And because the level of rigorous clinical testing those products go through, it is the benchmark of like what a great product should do. And so like there's everything in between. And I think with changes in regulation and what we discussed today, it will become a bit more narrow, hopefully, because like clinical testing should mean something. And at the moment, it doesn't. It's just such a wide gamut of things.
Oh, wow. So interesting. Good one. Okay. Final question. Finish this sentence. The future of premium skincare will be programmed by.
Data, not folklore.
Oh,
I love
Okay.
it.
yes.
I
Yes.
was channeling my like Taylor Swift era there for folklore, but like it's okay. Yeah, data.
Yeah, data, not folklore. It's great.
Thank you guys. This has been super great.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the Grow Everything podcast. We really have enjoyed this conversation and look forward to speaking to you again at some point in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great conversation, and it's such an important industry and movement that I'm glad you guys champion it. And thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, this episode is sponsored by Messaging Lab. At Messaging Lab, we translate complex science and economics into compelling business narratives. And we have done so for the most successful biotech-forward companies across pharma, agriculture, personal care and beauty, materials, and the list goes on. We're here to make sure your ideas not only get heard, but resonate with your audience. So if it's time to amplify your company's voice and elevate your business, visit us at messaginglab.com. Let's grow.
Erum, what did you think of that interview?
I love that we finally had Joshua on. Wow. This so much insight because he is cranking away. He has been and has brought so many insights to us just in this episode. I loved when he was talking about how making the ingredient is the easiest part, which we start talking about that too, because we know so many innovators that have made breakthrough products, but they are having trouble really scaling up and getting partners and getting to that next step in the business aspect of their company. So the real work is the communication and the brand education, really on the scientific side. Joshua was talking about pitching 30 to 40 brands a week. And most of these brands don't understand biotech. So he really has to figure out how to communicate it, right? They had their consumer product called Dende, and he really had to learn how to talk about it in a way that brand managers or brand owners were able to understand and run with it. And this is really what we're trying to do with the podcast is start talking about biology in a way that can be understood by more people. It's hard because what we say in our day-to-day work at Messaging Lab is that if everyone's your audience, no one's your audience, right? You really need to have a targeted conversation every time you are in a room with specific people. So yeah, sure, if you're doing a TED talk, you can be very generic. Obviously, if we have a podcast, we do tend to be a bit more broad. But the way Joshua was talking about how to talk to brands in order for them to understand the full concept and not just the science, but the business aspect, the whole playbook. So all we have to do really is just say, yeah, you understand us, you understand the problem, you know what to do end to end. So we don't have that many questions, and where do I sign? you
Yeah.
know?
And I mean, I think one great thing is that Joshua reminded us, and I think we do this with our listeners too, is that nature is very smart. It's smarter than synthetic chemists. Biologists at MIT and UC Irvine were creating complex natural molecules really in 5 days versus years using biology versus using synthetic chemistry. And that was the realization that led Joshua to found Debut. Biology is able to do things that are very complex that chemistry just can't do. So as we move forward and we have more products created with biotech, I think we're going to see a lot more complexity in the products, but that also means more functionality and more performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the song we sing. Functionality, performance, sustainability will come with biotech. The big thing, too, he mentioned is the vertical integration is a real moat. And that's something Debut is doing really well. He's talking about how engineering biology is now commoditized. Anyone can do it. I think that's a lot easier said than done. I mean, I feel like some people still find some challenges, but the way that Debut is doing it, they have a lot of capability to engineer biology. So what Josh was seeing and people that are a bit more advanced in this space, they see that the competition barriers are setting up that supply chain. Earlier in the conversation and in the intro, you mentioned formulation being the challenge because biology isn't the same as chemistry. So you have to formulate these products in a whole new way. And what does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that smell like, right? And then, of course, that last mile that is the most important is the consumer communication. Do the consumers understand the value and then experience it, right? I got my hair done. I went to the salon and I was talking to the stylist and they're talking about how many products that they get pitched. And a lot of times they say yes because they like the people that are selling it. But then when it comes down to using it, their customers are like, oh, I don't like this. It's a bit too greasy or it's a bit too oily or it's not this, it's not that. And the product then ends up failing. So the communication is so important and being able to do that full stack, this vertical integration. And Debut talked about these other companies that they look to, like DSM, like Cargill, like ADM, that has looked end to end at what needs to be done. And they're doing it. So, I mean, it's amazing to hear. And we were so fortunate to have this conversation.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that is worth mentioning, because we do talk about it a fair amount across episodes, is how AI plays into this. And Joshua talked about how it narrows the funnel. It means that AI can make things faster, theoretically, on a screen, but you still need wet labs. And you need to be able to use a wet lab to screen molecules and to reduce those candidates that AI produces from billions down to thousands, down to a few that you're actually going to test. And he mentioned that the direction is really to take 10 to 15 computational candidates that are then tested. So yes, AI moves things faster, but you still have to do that validation in the real world.
Yeah, yeah. I actually just recently watched a clip where it was a conversation between Zach Galifianakis and Conan O'Brien. I guess it's Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, that podcast.
Yes.
And so Zach Galifianakis talking about AI and how he's terrified of it, but he also was saying, he's really excited for its use in medicine and biology. So it's something we should talk about more. Is like,
I think we should, yeah.
Where are the biggest opportunities and where we need to focus our attention rather than building all this AI slop tools that is not helpful at all. Anyway, that's a side story. And then I would just say it's the topic that really sparked this whole BioDye series, and I mentioned it up top, is the regulatory tailwinds opening this window. And Joshua pointed to two specific things. One is that EU has these deforestation rules, so you just can't be extracting different plants from the forest. And they also have ingredient concentration limits on certain ingredients like retinol or kojic acid, which by 2028 has have limited concentrations. So I think that's creating this urgent demand for biotech replacements, which this is something that Joshua hit on. We did talk about throughout this series. And here in the United States, we have this MAHA pressure, but we have other pressures from parents, from consumers, a lot coming online. You shared a clip with me on, I don't know, Instagram, and it was just pointing towards biodyes and all these different ingredients just being available in the US still willy-nilly, where the EU has limited 5,000 chemicals. They've taken it out of their supply chains, and we just have like, I don't know, maybe 6 at this point. I remember when I first started looking at this many years ago, there was only like 4 chemicals that were limited. And also the fact that there were these MAHA pressures, but there's no consequences. So one of the things is there are these claims that were staked by the United States to remove these toxic synthetic dyes. They called out about 6 or 7 of them, and they said you have to remove it. It's voluntary to remove it, but if you don't, and there's no consequence. So I think it's still really important to collectively, whether through our governments, through our advocacy, to be able to talk about needing healthier, safer ingredients. And biotech can afford that.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these ingredients start off as luxury ingredients, and that's probably no surprise. Many of these ingredients are expensive to produce, they're new, and people who can afford them are willing to pay for the performance. But over time, we know that everything gets cheaper, the ingredients end up becoming more widespread, and they end up getting more used. If there was consequences with regards to the colors, then we would see them dropped. And I think we do see the industry scrambling to try to replace them in time. But as you said, there's no consequence associated with it. There's no fine. So voluntary, but we want to see more people, more companies adopt these ingredients and do it in a way that's timely.
Exactly. I'm excited that we were able to speak with Joshua. What great insights we received. I mean, there's so much to continue talking about. I cannot wait to see what debuts up to next. So stay tuned for more conversation. Our next episode, we're going to be speaking with Olivier Roland of L'Oreal. So now we're getting into some biotech beauty, which again, we love that category. So stay tuned for that. Couple of things is that we've been really busy on social media. So you might be seeing our clips, you might be seeing our posts. Please engage, like we are listening. We are wanting to help provide these insights, share more details. Let's talk beyond just here on the podcast. Please like and subscribe. And one big thing is that we will be at World Biomarkets, which is called Bioinnovations in Omaha this September. Karl and I will be moderating a couple of sessions. Excited to talk about commercializing a lot of these technologies that we talk about, all of these ingredients that we talk about here on the podcast. If you want to join us, the promo code is GROW EVERYTHING for 25% off to attend.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Grow Everything podcast. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us. All the information is in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to our Substack. Let's grow.
Let's grow.